Sawatito hon, buenos dias, and welcome back to My Holy Hill. I am teacher Therese Marie, your host for this podcast. And it's been a while since I've uploaded an episode here on this podcast. It has been quite busy for me, especially with the Missionary Families of Christ Eco Congress. We just had that last May 2nd to 3rd here in the Grand Mercury Hotel in Bangkok. I was supposed to post a vlog about that, but I didn't have enough time. But rest assured, I'm definitely going to share with you the lessons, the insights, and the stories that I obtained through that Congress. They were so powerful. And I'm truly grateful for the gift of being able to meet such fervent and zealous missionaries for Christ. These are missionaries from the Philippines, and they're the ones who are officially employed by the Missionary Families of Christ, or MFC organization. So, without further ado, I would like to share with you the story that would be shared through this episode. The Lord had placed in my heart today to share with you what He has saved me from. It's not one thing. It's definitely a whole lot of things. And I'm going to start with the very first thing that He saved me from, and that was when I was still in Saudi Arabia. So to share with you, I grew up in Riyadh City, which is the capital of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And that's where my parents were working as overseas workers, which is why I was brought there. And one of the things that I was struggling with from the age of 6 was an addiction to porn. I didn't know, I didn't have the environment that was healthy or that was guided so that I would be able to know what to do when I chanced upon this. So what happened was, when I was 6 years old, we only have the TV. We still didn't have the internet at that time, but I was an only child and my parents were often working overtime. So many times they would leave me to my books or to the TV. And during one evening, there was no classes this time. During one evening, they just left me on to watch TV, and I was just scrolling through the different channels, and then chance upon this new thing, this new channel that I didn't experience or didn't see before. Of course, it wasn't in any way appropriate for children, but I didn't know why it was there. So I saw this channel. It was that kind of channel, and I was so confused because it made me feel things that I didn't feel before. It made me curious on as to why that person is doing that, and why is it being, why did it make me feel these kind of things. And me being a very curious child and one who loves to share things about what she's learned, the next thing that I did was, when I had friends over, I had twin best friends at that time, and we had a sleepover. That's one of the few things that we can do as children overseas, is to have sleepovers, because we're not really allowed to play outdoors unless there's an adult who's supervising us. But anyways, they slept over at my place, and I was so excited to share with them, like, look, this is what I found. And at that time, my father was actually there with us in the room. And I didn't know it was anything that was not supposed to be what it wasn't, I didn't know. I was very innocent. And so I shared with them, look what I found. And so I was scrolling through the channels. And then I shared with them what I saw, the channel. And as soon as my father saw that, he was frozen. That's all I could say. And I was waiting for a response or some form of guidance from him. And what he did was, he turned off the TV and he told me quite calmly, he said, don't watch that. And that was it. I was like, okay. But why? There's a part in that child in me that's like, ugh, the curiosity definitely got to me. I was very curious and as to why I was not allowed to watch it. But I did try to listen, and so afterwards, I don't know how it evolved from that, but that was definitely the introduction to it. It then came to a point when I was perhaps early into my puberty, because I got my menstruation early, and that was around, yeah, when I was 9 years old. And then, so I was feeling this way, I was experiencing a lot of changes in my body. And with that, I think it also came a lot of stress, and also a lot like with school and studies, but more of stress or this longing and yearning for some form of human contact. As an only child, I didn't have a brother or sister with which I could speak with or confide in. And both of my parents are always working overtime. So we would only see each other in the morning or at night. And that's only for us to prepare for our daily things. So I'm preparing for school, they're preparing for work. When my mom or my dad would be coming home from work, they would often be very tired already. We didn't really have conversations. And so that's why this happened. I felt like this desire or this need for some form of human connection was addressed by watching those things, and I didn't know why. And I also know that it wasn't something that I could necessarily share with anyone. And so it became somewhat of a habit that whenever I'm just bored, or whenever I have nothing else to do, if I've watched all of the anime that I've watched, if I've already gotten bored of reading or rereading the books I already have, or playing my PSP, I would default to that. And it reached a point where it became the last thing that I did before I go to sleep. And I think that was how I felt comfort. It made me feel warm, or it made me feel like I was imagining things. I was imagining some sense of connection with another human being, but of course, again, it's false. And oftentimes it did escalate to something that's not healthy. It didn't give me a healthy sense of, a healthy understanding of what intimacy should look like within a romantic relationship. Because later on, as I learned when I grew up and when I finally got over this addiction, it's definitely gave me a false sense and false understanding of what relationships should be. I was only able to fully free myself from this habit when I was already in my adulthood. I think it was around 18. So from 6 years old to 18 years old, I was there. I was addicted to that, and that was very difficult for me, especially with being a Catholic, or being someone with a religious family. I didn't know who I could speak about it with. My schools didn't have the counseling services about this. I don't think it's something that's discussed in schools. I think it was very obvious that a lot of my classmates around high school were also very much aware of this practice, even into college. But I'm not sure. It was definitely a taboo topic at that time, especially in the Philippines, being a conservative country. So it was kind of difficult. And because of this background, I got into relationships that were not necessarily pure or chaste. Not one to the point wherein I'm not going to go into the details, but there were instances wherein I was not fully, where it wasn't a purely chase relationship. And that affected me and affected my relationship with the Lord, because somehow a part of me didn't feel like this was right. And also I've been told, and I've been guided by my grandmother and my mother about the sanctity of marriage and how it's important to save yourself for marriage. And so that's a line that I was told not to cross, and I did do that. But then there came a point where I was so down, and I was brought to the brink of my capacity to hold it together, because growing up in that kind of environment where I didn't have any contact or any guidance whatsoever, it made me have to deal with a lot of the challenges and issues that I faced personally, and it made me have to deal with it all by myself, which of course it wasn't the best way for me to be able to move forward and fully heal from it. I think this is going to be a very long episode if I share this part of the story, but to keep it quite short, the next thing that I know was there came a point in my journey where I was able to communicate with the Lord, and that is through the Lectio Divina. And because of the Lectio Divina, I got a better sense of how the Lord speaks and how the Lord guides through His Word in the Bible. But there came a time when I felt as though my prayers were not answered, and I felt so betrayed, felt so unloved and unaccepted. During that time, my self-worth was very much linked to my capacity to meet other people's expectations. And during that time, I felt as though I didn't meet the expectations. And so that's why I felt my worth was non-existent. And that pushed me to the point of going to alcohol, going to drugs, and going to unhealthy substances. And finally, there was a situation where I could not put myself out of, and I struggled a lot. And I was in a season of being worldly, just going about doing the things that I think I should do, doing things that are based off of my own understanding. And that was absolutely one of the hardest seasons that I had. And that was because I felt as though the Lord betrayed me, and so I was so angry about it. And that's why I told Him, Lord, if you do not listen to me, then I won't listen to you. That's when I became so rebellious, and I went about my own way. And then later on, I got so burned, so broken, that I honestly struggled to go back to Jesus at that time. But by His grace and by His mercy, He still accepted me. I know for a fact that if I shared this story with anyone who was close to me, either it's my family or my friends, I'm not quite sure how well or how compassionate they're going to be. Which is going to link me to another story, and that is why the one whom I felt accepted me, who didn't judge me for my mistakes or for my past, was not Catholic. She was not Christian even. She was Hindu Buddhist. And that's why I have this strong, very strong affinity for even those who are not of the same faith as I am, because it is through them that I felt seen, I felt valued, and I felt respected. Oftentimes, when I share this kind of stories within my own circle or within my own faith community, it's met with a lot of scorn, a lot of condescension and judgment. And it's hard to open up again once you have been dealing with that, or once you've received that kind of treatment. And later on, after experiencing that with my friend, my Hindu Buddhist friend, I can see how the Lord works bit by bit and more clearly, how He's not limited by Christians or Catholics alone. The Lord Jesus allows us to feel His love through the different people we meet, regardless of their faith. That's how I know, because as long as you do what is loving, what is kind, what is compassionate, what is selfless, and what is right and what is just, then you're doing what Jesus longs to do on this world. There's a difference between being religious and being just. There's a difference with being pious and being personable. The Lord has redeemed me through that experience. Even though I was rebellious, I still went to church every Sunday, but I didn't really put my heart into it. I didn't pray the rosary daily. I didn't listen to His word. I wasn't reading the Bible, but everything else about my faith, quote unquote, was just that. It was just something that I did so that my parents or my family would not get mad at me, or would not judge me or deem me someone as rebellious or someone. I was doing it just so that they won't say anything about me, but deep inside I wasn't fulfilling what a Catholic should do. And I'm sharing this story with you as I remember it and I relate it with the story of the woman in the well, the one where Jesus approached her and saw her and made her feel so loved, even with just one conversation. Because I felt like that's how the Lord made me feel. It was during that time when I kept on falling, I kept on sinning. And oftentimes they say, even if I sin, no matter how many times you sin the same sin, just go back to confession. Always go back to confession and try your best to ask for God's mercy and to rely on His grace, so that you would be able to overcome the sin that you're struggling with so hard. Because a lot of the times, sometimes it's not just because of your own fault, sometimes it's also the environment. And the Lord saw that me staying in that kind of environment was not going to be conducive for me to grow out of that sin, because that environment was the one that's keeping me in that kind of unhealthy pattern. And so by the Lord's grace and mercy, He really delivered me from that situation. I was just working in my city, Zamboanga City, but then because He loved me so much, He brought me to Thailand for my scholarship, for my master's degree. It's a full-blown scholarship as well, because it's with a university, with Mahalo University, and it's at a university that's way out of my budget, with my mom being a single parent. But that's how He redeemed me. I know for a fact that I would not be here. I would not be here in Thailand because of Jesus. And I know for a fact that Jesus brought me here to share this with you. Now I understand why I had to go through all of these things, why I had to go study human rights, why I had to become a teacher, why I had to become a lecturer, why I had to get to do all of these things, why I had to study entrepreneurship and start this podcast. And that's bit by bit He's showing me what was my purpose and what is the mission that He has for me, and that is to bring Him more to you, to bring Jesus to you, and let my story be shared so that you would see that yes, Jesus is real, and Jesus is longing to help you, to be with you, to share with you all of the blessings that He has blessed upon me. And it's my most sincerest desire that He makes you feel how much He has made me feel, even double of it or triple of it, because I know Jesus can never be outdone when it comes to generosity. So if you're struggling with anything, whether it be an addiction to some form, whether it be depression, whether it be any kind of mental health issue, I urge you and I sincerely suggest that you go to Jesus. He's the one who can help you. He's the healer. He's the way, the truth, and the life. And He's the one who truly loves you so much. I feel as though the Lord is telling me to end it here, and I'm truly thankful and grateful for all of those listeners who listen. If there's anything else that you'd like me to talk about, please let me know in the comments below. Please also share, like, and subscribe. Again, this is a ministry that I was called to start by the Lord Jesus. I am just a teacher here, but I do hope that this platform would benefit the people whom the Lord wants to help. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. God bless you.